Renewal and professional learning units. For educators who hold certificates expiring in August of 2019, final effectiveness ratings will be required as part of renewal. Beginning January 1st, 2020, final effectiveness ratings will no longer be tied to certification renewal requirements. However, educator evaluation is still in place as it has been long before Race to the Top. Data is still required to be reported to RIDE. There is also an obligation in ESSA to report some state-level data around effectiveness. Lastly, based on evaluations, educators receive feedback and support at the district level towards continuous improvement of professional practice, and this information gathered by districts during evaluations may inform staff professional learning needs.
Professional learning for certification. One key aspect of the new regulations is the reintroduction of a requirement for ongoing professional learning in order for educators to renew their certificate. This requirement will go into effect starting January 1st, 2020, and will be gradually phased in over time depending on your certificate type. This requirement signals RIDE's view that professional learning is critical for educators to maintain and grow the skills and content knowledge they need to effectively educate and support students. As part of these regulations, districts will be required to create professional learning plans, PLPs, that will articulate the district's role in providing professional learning for their educators. Professional learning units required. Professional learning will be measured in professional learning units, or PLUs. Once fully phased in, educators who hold an initial 3-year certificate will be responsible for the equivalent of 30 PLUs annually or 90 PLUs collectively to meet renewal requirements. Once fully phased in, educators renewing professional 5-year or advanced 7-year certificates will be responsible for the equivalent of 20 PLUs annually or 100 PLUs collectively to meet renewal requirements. Only educators who are working in Rhode Island public school settings and hold a valid full certificate are required to meet PLUs as part of renewal. Educators who hold Rhode Island preliminary certificates are not required to provide PLUs as part of renewal. Activities for PLUs. In order to support educators and districts, the regulations include descriptive categories of the types of activities that may count towards PLUs. RIDE intentionally created fairly broad categories so that districts and educators would have the flexibility to meet their professional learning needs. There are 4 broad categories. If an activity improves or enhances an educator's subject matter or content knowledge and skills, their pedagogical or pedagogical content knowledge and skills, their ability to implement curriculum effectively, or enhance educator effectiveness, then it may be accepted toward PLUs. It is also important to note that these categories, while broad, do have reasonable limits, and activities that fall outside of them may not be counted toward PLUs, as we will discuss in the next slide. Example activities. The regulations also provide concrete examples of activities that could be counted for PLUs. This activity list is meant to be illustrative, not exhaustive. The examples include many different types of site-based learning, such as well-structured professional learning communities focused on the implementation of strong curriculum materials via lesson study, or looking at student work analysis. They also include coaching and induction activities, which has been a point of emphasis in our state for some time. Other examples include emerging forms of professional learning, such as micro-credentials, or more traditional forms, such as university coursework or workshops facilitated by an expert third party. What is true about all these examples, and should be noted, is that they fall into one of the 4 broad categories we discussed on the previous slide. Activities that do not fall into one of the 4 categories and do not relate to improving educator practice may not be counted for PLUs. Many of these activities, such as safety trainings, are important for schools but are not professional learning. assigning value to activities. The following conversions help to understand how common activities translate into professional learning units, PLUs. For activities most easily measured in hours, 1 hour of an activity is equivalent to 1 PLU. A college credit is equivalent to 15 PLUs, and completion of components of National Board Certification is converted at the rate of 1 component equaling 45 PLUs. The value of a demonstrated competency via microcredential should be set with the district before the microcredential is started and may range from 5 to 10 PLUs depending on the difficulty of the competency and the amount of time likely required to master it. Approval and record keeping of PLUs. Ultimately, educators are responsible for keeping track of their PLUs and maintaining records that attest to their attendance and participation in any activities used to accumulate PLUs. However, the responsibility for approving PLUs lies with the district superintendent or designatee. Approval of units should be consistent with the regulations and, once in place, consistent with the district's professional learning plan. LEAs will not be required to upload documentation. The only sign-off that RIDE will require is superintendent assurance. RIDE will build an electronic verification mechanism as part of the application process. Educators should maintain their records, however. Districts will approve PLUs, then verify to RIDE that an educator has fulfilled the PLU renewal requirements. RIDE will audit a percentage of applications to make sure the PLU requirement is being implemented in a manner consistent with these regulations. Records of approval and completion of PLUs must be made available to RIDE upon request. Special Provisional Certificate. If for some reason an educator has not completed the required number of professional learning units for renewal of their certificate, they may apply for a once-in-their-career, non-renewable Special Provisional Certificate. This certificate is valid for 1 year and allows an educator 1 year to meet the required PLUs for the previous renewal cycle. Upon completion of the PLUs, the educator will then apply for the appropriate initial or professional certificate, which will be issued from the original issuance date to the original expiration date. For example, an educator due to renew his or her professional certificate by August 31st, 2020, but did not complete the required PLUs would apply for the Special Provisional Certificate. The educator would have school year 2020-2021 to meet the PLU requirements for renewal. Upon meeting the previously required PLUs, the educator may apply and will then be issued a professional certificate with an expiration date of 2025. Essentially, the educator now has 4 years to complete the full 5 years of PLUs. At the end of that certification cycle, the educator would owe the full number of PLUs for the current certification cycle. PLUs earned while holding a Special Provisional Certificate cannot be used towards the educator's current certification cycle requirements. Professional learning plans. In order to support their educators in meeting this requirement and to increase the efficacy of professional learning generally, the new certification regulations call for districts to create a professional learning plan. This plan must include an identification of needs for professional learning and how the professional learning will align to the educator, district, and school needs as articulated in existing strategic or school improvement plans. This should lead to both alignment with existing initiatives and differentiation of professional learning for educators. It must include examples of activities the district will allow consistent with these regulations. It must include a mechanism for how PLUs will be approved. Finally, the plans must articulate how the district will ensure there are opportunities for professional learning that is ongoing and within the school context, rather than relying on one-time activities. RIDE is currently working on a strategy for supporting the development of some PL plan models.